Hello, my name is Jack Walter. I'm currently in construction engineering and management. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my past internship experience, some of the projects I've worked on, as well as some of the things I've learned from those experiences. For the past 2 years, I have been interning at the city of Naperville in their TED department, or Transportation Engineering and Development, working on two big projects mainly. So the first project is the Sidewalk Program. This one happens yearly, so there's a new sidewalk program every year, and it's the smaller of the two, usually around $15 to $20 million, and this comes directly from the city, so that number is going to change year to year. As you can tell from the name, this one focuses on the R&R, remove and replace of sidewalk and curb all around the city, and can entail a lot of travel because you're removing sidewalks in different subdivisions, so you're going all around the city. The second program that I worked on was called the MFT Program. This one is also yearly and usually ranges around $60 million. MFT standing for the motor fuel tax. That's what's funding this program. K5 last summer took this program, and this one involves mainly roads, but also doing the sidewalk and curb around those roads that we're redoing.
Another project I worked on was the Microsurfacing project. This is a lot smaller in scope, but it was a cheaper alternative to, removing and repaving road. That's because with microsurfacing, all you're doing is putting a thin layer of material on top of the existing road. You don't actually have to remove or grind any road before you do this, which makes it a much cheaper and more affordable option compared to completely repaving the road.
So talking a little bit about the concept phase and how that transitions into reality, since this is a public job, this happens every single year, meaning there's no circumstance where the concept phase doesn't move into reality. So they're in this constant cycle of every single winter, they're planning and figuring out where they're going to do the work, what they're going to do the work on, and then during the summer, they're actually completing the work. The picture next to me just shows a faded X you can see on those squares. That's from the past winter when they actually marked this out for work. And then I went ahead of the crew and remarked out the squares that needed to get done so that they had an easier time telling where to actually do the work. One experience I had with solving a problem was when I was working in Lancaster Circle. So in this case, we were redoing a bunch of the roads as well as taking out a bunch of curb and sidewalk on pretty much everything below 87th. But they ran into a parking problem where none of the cars had anywhere to park, so they planned on doing work on one side of the road and then having the residents park on the other and then flipping it when they finish on that side. But they never told the residents about this plan. So I showed up on the day we were supposed to remove a bunch of the curb, and cars were parked on both sides of the road, and we needed to get into the curb that these cars are parked on. So I had to, basically for the entire morning, ring the doorbells of all these residents and talk to all of them and figure out whose car is who and try to get all the cars that are in the way moved. So that took around 5 hours, but eventually we got all the cars moved, and somehow we got all the work we needed to complete done that day. So that was just a small triumph for me, and that really shows how much of an issue that we had with communication, because we never told the residents about our plan, and that wasted a ton of time.
So moving on to some of the lessons that I've learned throughout my internship experience. For me, the biggest one, again, tying back to my past experience, would be communication. There were countless times when there were issues with communication that ended up creating a problem, wasting time, and to me seemed like a extremely avoidable issue. One example of this issue that comes to mind is a super long chain of communication where it takes forever for that problem to actually reach someone who can deal with it. For example, whenever a gradle operator had an issue, he would have to tell his foreman, who would then call his supervisor, who would then call my boss, who would then call me to tell me to go solve the problem. And this was just so many steps, and it ended up wasting a ton of time. And eventually I realized, and I took it into my own hands, that I could just solve this issue by getting the number and getting to know all these operators and foremen before these issues arise. Going into my second year at the city of Naperville, I started to go out of my way to talk to some of the different foremen, the laborers, and some of the grade all operators, and get to know them as well as get their contact information just in case sometime in the future they run into an issue that they can easily contact me. After doing this, it ended up saving a bunch of time in the future. I remember so many days where the foreman or the gradle operator would be calling me all day long with different issues coming up that most of the time I would be able to solve right away. And they didn't have to go through the grapevine of people trying to get to the person who actually had the solution. So that wraps up my talk and my experiences working at the city of Naperville. I've learned a lot from working on both the Sidewalk and the MFT programs. I'm also grateful for the great coworkers that I was lucky to work with every day. I'm glad to have worked in the public sector, and I'm looking forward to shifting to the private sector next summer. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.